The big question is, are accent walls still cool? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is coming right up in my keys to accent wall success. An accent wall is usually a wall panel that's designed differently from the rest of the room. It's meant to stand out. This is accomplished in many different ways, whether it's painted a different color, or maybe it has some stone, tile, or even wallpaper on it. A wall covering company I've been really loving lately is Scopos Canada, so I'll be sure to talk about them more later on. Really cool stuff. Ted Baker. Essentially, an accent wall acts as the accent of the room's overall design, or one of many accents if you're feeling a little eclectic. Although it's very popular in the design community, there are certain people that feel accent walls can come across as a bit of a cliche in certain cases. But I'm a big believer that anything that has the right thought or intention behind it has a right to exist in the world of design. I'm not above using accent walls, and there are certain things that have helped me utilize them pretty effectively. If you're absolutely lost on how to use an accent wall to your advantage, let's talk about it right after you hit that old like button for me, please. The very first thing you want to consider is, do you need an accent wall to begin with? I know this is sort of going against my praise of accent walls in general, but it really is an important question to consider. If your design already has quite a bit going on and it's already well balanced, then introducing another design component could muddy and overcomplicate things. And there are, of course, ways to have your cake and eat it too. Even if you do have a pretty busy design, you can still put an accent wall in that space anyway, but it's just another level of complexity that you may have to tackle. So just consider all the aspects that are already existing in your design. So if you've decided to take the plunge, well, the first thing you want to do is select the wall that you want to paint with your accent color. There is a real reason why accent walls exist. It's not just an excuse to buy a fun paint color to use in a smaller dose. The purpose of painting an accent wall is to draw focus to a central wall in the room. You should consider which wall would create the best focal point to draw attention to. Think about sight lines of you and your guests in the room and just outside of the room, because that will inform how visible it'll be. It's also a great tool to help anchor your furniture. For example, in a bedroom, the headboard wall is an easy choice. In the living room, typically the sofa wall defines the living room and helps to anchor the sofa to that space. It often creates a visually appealing backdrop as well to hang artwork on and set your furniture against. And on the flip side, the TV or fireplace wall may also be appealing as an accent because you want to draw attention to that in your space. I specifically enjoy the strategy with darker accent colors so the TV can sink into the colors seamlessly, and this allows the visuals of whatever you're watching to really pop. You don't necessarily need to stick to one wall either. I've seen plenty of people opt for accent corners where they have two connected adjacent walls that are painted the same color. In other cases, you could have two accent walls opposite from one another on either end of the room. An ideal accent wall candidate is one that is a square or a rectangle, something that is as clear as possible and not really ambiguous in its shape. The more clear and concise the overall shape is, the more effective the overall look will be. All right, so now you're ready to look at some colors. I wanted to fan it like a magician's deck of cards, but that didn't really work. So let's start with paint colors first, because this is the Paint People channel. Subscribe if you're new. I need to stop. So choosing the accent wall color is commonly the opposite of picking a room color. For your accent wall, you're going to be looking for something that has some contrast, as opposed to the more common neutral colors that most people pick for the rest of the room. One thing you need to factor in is, because of the angular nature of those connecting walls, you will have shadows that will inevitably change your color as those specific wall angles change. And you can even see this in your home right now. If you look at one of the corners of your room, one wall will look darker than the other just because of the shadow that's showing up, even though the color is identical. You have to factor in this difference and pick up the contrast in your accent color. You want to go at least 2 to 3 shades darker if you want to see a difference at all. And of course, you can continue to bump that up as you see fit. What if you wanted to get a little creative with more saturated color hues? Well, this is part of the fun of accent colors, because you can get very creative by going with very bright, vibrant hues to add a lovely pop of color. The color you choose for your accent wall can be inspired from your decor palette, and what you can do is use the 60-30-10 rule. In this rule, you have a 60% distribution of your primary color, 30% of a secondary color, and 10% of a tertiary color. Your secondary accent color in your palette makes for a harmonizing accent wall. It'll act as a complementary backdrop to your main color and can contrast with your tertiary color. Colorful painted accent walls are a great way to introduce color to a room without the color dominating the whole space. They tend to pair best with other walls that are pretty neutral and desaturated, so they stand out a bit more. Some popular accent walls are navy blues, opulent reds, purples, deep greens, golds, and yellows. And of those colors, you can consider Benjamin Moore's Shadow, Buttercup, Hail Navy, Chimichurri, and Caliente. Some of my favorites. On the other hand, an accent wall in a neutral color can go equally as well with other neutral walls or a colored painted wall. A handful of dependable neutral colors like Chelsea Gray, Metropolis, Barn Board, Coachman's Cape, and French Press. One of the simplest ways to find an accent color is you grab the color chip of your wall paint and then skip one or even two to find a nice subtle accent color. Don't make the mistake and just go one shade down, because you'll barely notice a difference at all. I promise you. Skip one if you want to be very subtle, and skip two if you want something a little more substantial. And then of course, as you get darker from there, then you're totally fine, because you'll definitely see a difference. Accent walls don't end with paint alone. It's always a good idea to add other design elements like texture whenever possible. This can come in the form of wainscoting, board and batten, even some wallpaper, especially ones by our friends over at Scopus Canada. First of all, have you heard of Ted Baker? They're kind of a big deal. Scopus Canada has released a series of wall coverings that utilize Ted Baker designs and patterns. Some of these designs are absolutely breathtaking, and I have been obsessed with their catalogs as I constantly go through them. And I know my fiance is as well, because she has quite a few Ted Baker dresses. Bit of a humble brag there. What's also great about these catalogs is you have several designs with multiple different iterations and colorations, like treetops, for example, which comes in a wonderful variety of beautiful, luxurious looks that can suit many different tastes. Ted Baker Designs on Wallpaper is available in Canada exclusively from Scopus and its partners. I'll leave Scopus Canada's information down below, including some places you can pick some of their stuff up, or if you just want to browse at their awesome catalogs. Big thank you to them for helping us out with today's video. In addition to wallpaper, you can also use things like stone or tile, or even wood, to really enhance the look even further. Just keep in mind that some of these options are going to feel a little more permanent than a simple repaint or wallpapering. So make sure you're picking something that you're not going to get sick of after 6 months. That's one of the clear benefits of just sticking with a traditional coat of paint or some nice wallpaper, because you can just select something that you're really into right now, but within a year or two, if you want to change it up, it's not a huge deal. Repainting a wall or taking off some wallpaper is not nearly as tedious as removing actual stone. The last little tidbit I'll leave you with, my friend, is your accent wall doesn't have to be just a wall, but they can be the ceiling as well. Accent ceilings are arguably more trendy than walls because it's a little more unexpected. There's some really cool stuff you can do where you can incorporate a bit of a reciprocal relationship between adjacent rooms. A lot of math terms there. What I mean is you have one room's wall color as the next room's ceiling color and vice versa. Just a fun way to incorporate an accent ceiling, but also keep the flow of your design going. Either way, I really hope you're still keen on accent walls because they are a great way to add dimension to a space. And if you want to hear a professional painter's perspective on them, you can click this video here where Natalie from Natic Painting can give you her insight.